evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Kingster, and my life is now hell. You see, my daughter Betsy has been rejected from the public schooling system, and now we have the unenviable task of having to homeschool her. Hence, she's going to be around me all the goddamn time. And now that I'm taping my sports program, obviously, I tape the sports shows in the day and the more adult-related shows at night. So now she's going to have to join me for my sports program. Betsy, how are you?
I'm good.
Wonderful. Betsy, today we're going to talk about the UFC event that's coming up tomorrow. One of my favorite talents on BigTimeStars.com, Ouroboros Cain. I'm going to do a video on him later, but he asked me for my predictions. So I'm going to just make my predictions on this video, then I'm going to send him this video and he'll know who I'm picking. Betsy, are you familiar with Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos, Daniel Cormier, however the hell you say his name, or Big Country Roy Nelson? Any of these people sound familiar to you?
The Daniel, whatever his last name was.
Cormier.
Oh, that guy? I don't know him. The other guys, yes.
You do know the other guys. How do you know the other guys?
They're on your UFC game.
Oh, that's right. You know them from my UFC video game.
Yes.
If you want to buy the UFC video game, you can also buy that from my store, giftsatthesour.com. That's what you call a cheap plug, Betsy. Do you understand? Cheap plugging?
Yay!
All right, very good. Let's get right into it. Okay, so let's look at the interesting fights on this card. I'm on the UFC website right now. How many fights here are worth caring about? Well, let's see. There's going to be a female fight on this card with two no-name females who I don't know about. Speaking of females, well, this is kind of a female. Fallon Fox just got his, or hers, or whatever you want to call it, ASS handed to him. I'll talk more about that at a video I make where Betsy's not around, but it was hilarious. Okay, so there's a female fight on this card. I like UFC female fights, even if I don't know who the competitors are, because when girls fight, they don't mess around. They just go in for the kill, and they give it all they got. So I can, honestly, it's easier for me to watch a day's worth of no-name female fighters than it is a day's worth of no-name male fighters. Because male fighters, they're just fighting, you know, for self-defense and to get a paycheck. Women, they still don't feel that their slot in this sport is secure, so they're fighting to keep their gender into the sport. What do you think about female fighters, Betsy? You have an opinion on female fighters by any chance?
Personally, I think that females should fight more often, because normally they just don't go into many sports where they can fight or they play sports. And also, yeah,
that line of gibberish you just heard was brought to you courtesy of the public school system that just rejected my daughter Betsy. So, well, what are you trying to say, Betsy? You are pro female fighters? Stop laughing, Betsy. This is what got you kicked out of school. So, you are pro female fighters, Betsy? Is that it? You got your thumb up? That's good. Would you ever want to become a fighter when you grow up?
I don't know yet.
Does it seem something that's appealing to you? You know, I would recommend that you don't do it. The reason is female fighters are really underpaid. Liz Carmouche, who recently fought Ronda Rousey, they released their payments, what they got paid to fight. Liz Carmouche only made like $3,000. Can you imagine? You're on a worldwide event seen by people all across the globe and you only make $3,000 for fighting? Yeah, girl fighters are really, really underpaid. So I recommend if you're ever going to get into this sport that you wait until, you know, female fighters have some type of status and they're paid respectably. All right, so we've established there's going to be a female fight, and You know, I don't know who the females are. I really don't care to know who the females are, but I know it's going to be good because all females, they fight their heart out. At least from every fight I've seen in the UFC, I haven't seen one bad female fight. What else is interesting? Marquardt is fighting. He's kind of like an interesting guy to watch. He's not, you know, a main event, and I wouldn't tune in just to watch one of his fights. But if it's on a card that I enjoy by default anyway, I'll definitely watch the fight. So I think that fight's worth watching. I think the female fight's worth watching. Dotson is fighting some guy I'm not really aware of and is not worth talking about, but I'm going to give the win to Dotson. Gonzaga is fighting Jordan. Both of these guys look like towering beasts, especially Gonzaga. He's a freaky looking guy right now, so I'm going to give the win to Gonzaga. Diego the Nightmare Sanchez, or now he's known as Diego the Dream Sanchez. He keeps changing his name. This Diego Sanchez has a lot of mental problems, Betsy. He's not right in the head, which is understandable because he gets hit in the head all day for a living. That's his job, is to hit people and to be hit by people. And so Diego is now known as the Dream Sanchez. He should just call himself Dirty Sanchez. I think that would be funny. Yes, Betsy.
Isn't that the whole point, just to hit somebody and then get hit back?
Well, you're supposed to technically avoid getting hit.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't really matter. That's the whole point. And if somebody hits you, you hit them.
Right. So, here we go again. So, yeah, that's going to happen. Diego Sanchez is taking on Melendez. I'm going to go with Diego Sanchez because he always comes to fight and he always goes full blast, even though he's got a lot of octagon rust. He hasn't fought in a long time. And apparently he also had some other issues, like he didn't make weight properly and a bunch of craziness. But I'm still going for Diego Sanchez because the thing with Diego Sanchez, his style is... Oh, great. Someone's calling and interrupting my program. Hold on. I apologize to you, the listeners, for that. For some reason, I can go all day and no one makes any effort to contact me. But the minute I decide I want to do something, phones ring and craps beep and the computer starts alerting me. Oh, you need to update this. I could have told you this yesterday, but I've decided to wait till you're running a program that's important. Douches. Okay, back to the fight that we were talking about, as Betsy sits there and laughs at my misery. The last fight we talked about before the stupid phone rang was Diego Sanchez versus Melendez. I picked Diego Sanchez because I think law of averages, if you come out like a rocket each and every time, most likely there's going to be a time where your opponent isn't expecting that. Actually, most of the time your opponent's not going to be expecting that. And I don't know. I just think Diego's got this one. So I don't want to waste any more time on this. I'm picking Diego Sanchez. Now we get down to nitty-gritty. This is what people really care about. The Daniel Cormier versus Big Country Roy Nelson, and Junior Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez. Let me tell you a little bit about Daniel Cormier, Betsy. Daniel Cormier is a freak. I look at him and I see a guy that looks like a wussy. Like, he does not appear to be a dangerous individual at all. He just looks like, you know, a little puffy black guy who can't do anything. But believe it or not, this little puffy guy is one of the most deadliest human beings to walk the face of this earth. His fights are spectacular to watch. He knocked out Bigfoot Silva. You know Bigfoot, the guy with the big head and the tattoo of a foot on his back, this 7-foot monster? Daniel Cormier kicked the crap out of him. And he also recently beat Frank Mir. And Frank Mir is no joke. So the fact that Daniel Cormier beat Frank Mir, that too is to be highly respected. Regardless of the fact that he didn't beat him in spectacular fashion, a win over Frank Mir is a win over freaking Frank Mir. And that's a big deal. Roy Big Country Nelson's coming off of a loss. However, it was a decision loss. Daniel Cormier has never lost a round. I got to make that clear too. He's never lost a freaking round. He's undefeated, and not just undefeated, he's never lost a round. It's still a tough fight because Big Country can throw a knockout punch at any time. He's highly volatile. I still got to give it to Daniel Cormier, but the little voice in my head is making me think I'm going to end up regretting this. Yes, Betsy?
How come he says that, the Roy guy says he can do kung fu when he doesn't look like he can do kung fu?
You got to stop eating the paint chips, Betsy. Betsy wants to know why Roy Nelson is introduced as a kung fu fighter when he doesn't look like someone who can do kung fu. It's a good question, Betsy. The reason is Roy Nelson is a funny guy, and he says that to be funny. He's obviously not a kung fu fighter, although he's very dangerous and he fights very well as a mixed martial artist. I wouldn't call him a kung fu fighter. You need to be able to jump to be called a kung fu fighter, and I don't think he can get his big butt off of the ground, but maybe a few inches. So calling him a kung fu fighter is a bit exaggerated. That's my pick, though. I'm picking Daniel Cormier to beat Roy Nelson with a 30% chance of me regretting this and having to eat humble pie the night of the fight because, like I said, Roy Nelson can throw a knockout punch at any time. The main event, Betsy, the main event. Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos. Let me give you a little bit of their history.
But I know...
Yes, Betsy.
But I know Junior Dos Santos. I don't really know the other guy.
Betsy likes Junior Dos Santos because he does that thing, before the fight starts where he comes in the middle and he points down on the ground aggressively, all crazy, like, well, this is radio. There's no way I can convey that to you. But he points like I'm showing Betsy right now. It's making her laugh. He even does that on the video game. So, here's... Yes, Betsy.
But he doesn't just point at the ground. First he points at the guy and then he points at the ground.
Yes, he points at the guy and he goes, "You onto the ground." Of course, he had to feel stupid when he lost his fight to Cain. Let me give you a quick history, Betsy. So what happened was these two have fought 2 times. This is their 3rd fight coming up tomorrow. Their first fight, Cain Velasquez was hurt, but he didn't admit that he was hurt. And he wound up getting knocked out in the very first round by Junior Dos Santos. The second fight, Cain was healthy, and he took Junior Dos Santos to school. School, that thing that you don't go to anymore. He took Junior Dos Santos to school, and he beat him in every way a person in mixed martial arts can beat another person in mixed martial arts. Like everything, he out-everything'd him. In every measurable thing, Cain Velasquez proved his superiority.
Well, then why is he fighting him again if he already beat him?
Because that's why it's a trilogy. It's called the rubber match. One person gets a win, and then the other person gets a win, and then they fight one more time to see, who's really the champion. I personally think Junior Dos Santos got lucky in his first fight. I think the domination by Cain in the second fight was so overwhelming. I mean, it would take too much time. A year is not enough time to catch up with someone that's clearly that far ahead of you in every aspect of the game. Although I did see Junior Dos Santos recently, his muscles are scary. They are much bigger than they were. I'm not indicating that he was on any type of steroids. I know he had a personal team of physicians looking out for him, so it could have just been natural growth. I'm not sure, but he really looked muscular, and Cain looked small, and I'm sure Cain wants to be small so he can maneuver and to have endurance, and because Cain's a machine. He's just going to keep doing takedown after takedown after takedown until you finally give in, and then he takes you down, and then he's just going to punish you. That's what I predict. I predict Cain Velasquez doing a repeat of their second fight. I predict Cain will just punish Junior Dos Santos mercilessly for the duration of the fight, and I'm picking Cain, and I'm saying that with almost 0% chance that I'm going to end up regretting this. I am very, very sure Cain is going to destroy Junior Dos Santos unless Cain is hiding an injury. But I think Cain would know better than to fight him again with an injury. So I am picking Cain to destroy Junior Dos Santos. Betsy, your thoughts?
What if you're wrong?
Look at me. My whole life I've been wrong about things, Betsy. If I'm wrong, then tomorrow will just be another Saturday. That's what will happen if I'm wrong. Nothing will change. Any other questions, Betsy?
I like cheese.
That's not a question, Betsy. That's a statement. Your love of cheese has nothing to do. Actually, speaking of Facebook, Betsy, I got a friend, Matthew Burrows, on Facebook. He's one of my most cherished friends, and he's one of the people that make Facebook worth visiting.
Does he like cheese?
Yes and no. He was actually talking to me about cheese the other day. Matthew is the kind of guy that I love to hate because he gives me good information, but sometimes the information he gives me goes against something I like, and it's hard for me to divide my hatred for being let down and not take it out on him and just be, courteous and thankful for the information that he's given me. But he said the thing with cheese is cheese apparently triggers something in your brain that makes people like it. Like it releases feel-good chemicals. And he said that it's common that people have an intimate connection with cheese, but cheese is apparently really, really bad for you. Like it stays in your system for 10 days or whatever. He had like a whole list of reasonings why cheese is bad for you. But, truth be told, Betsy, I would rather live to 70 happy than 90 miserable. So I'm going to continue eating cheese. Even though I don't have it that much, I maybe have, 50 calories worth of cheese every week. So yeah, I have a very little amount of cheese anyway. Yes, Betsy?
Do you like Mr. Bean?
Betsy has found Mr. Bean on Netflix, and she likes Mr. Bean, which is kind of odd because you'd think an 8-year-old wouldn't like British humor, but apparently she's really fond of it. Yes, Betsy?
Did you ever watch Mr. Bean when you were a kid?
I think we're done. I want to invite you to check out my store, giftsatThisHour.com. Go to BigTimeStars.com. It will be fully edited by Sunday. All the links there will work if they don't already by the time you hear this. And yeah, check out our Burrows Cain. He's got a really interesting story. I don't want to tell it now because it'll kill the mood. But and check out Honest John. Check out Chris Holland. He's interesting too. And the models that I have on there, Rachel is really attractive. Can we go now, Betsy? Are we done?
Do you like cheese?
We're done. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe and share all our videos. That concludes the end of the program.